Namaste and welcome to today's lecture on Pranayama. Pranayama is sometimes confused, and I want to jump right into this one because I want to immediately get this out of the minds of any Purna Yoga Shala student. Sometimes we think of Pranayama as breath exercises, and that is because there are a lot of exercises that involve the breath that bring about the involvement of Pranayama. And I know this sounds a little convoluted, it's a little confusing, but we're going to clarify it. Prana is the life force energy, the vital life force energy. So when we think of life force energy, we might immediately think, what do we need to run this life, this body, keep ourselves moving? And at first we think calories or water. You know, we have the necessities that we have to go and get. We have to actively take and then place into this physical form so that it can then be utilized in the nutrients and the minerals and the other ways that it fuels the body. But that's not the vital life force energy that prana is mentioning, that prana is referencing. The one that we can take and give all day, every day, as long as we are alive, is going to be the breath. It's going to be every inhale and every exhale is the most important, the most vital thing that we could utilize to even continue living. So think about this. If you could go without food for a couple weeks, I think it's up to 21 days, you could go without water for maybe a week, maybe a little bit more, maybe some people say a little bit less, so 5 days, 4 days. But you couldn't go without the breath for, I don't know, depending on how long you practiced, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. For some people nowadays, in this modern era, maybe only a few seconds before they need that other breath. So we immediately realized through that comparison that the breath is that vital life force energy that we couldn't really do without. Now let's talk about the second part of that term, pranayama. We know the yama from the yama video, if you had watched that, but we know that yamas mean the controls, the ethical controls, or the observances. And it has a little bit of both here. We have a little bit of both. First, we're going to have ways that we're going to control the breathing, not necessarily exercise the breathing, but control the breathing. And then we're going to have to observe the breathing. So this is why you know how we always start the practice is with a few rounds of some kind of breath control, one kind or another. And this is the one that is going to help us bring about that understanding of the control of the breath, the focus to control over the breath, to control the breath. And then we are going to observe the control over the breath throughout the rest of the practice. We're going to attempt to continue it. We're going to attempt to stay disciplined and consistent in that breath. But we are not going to allow the breath to be taken away by distractions, by a mental distraction, a mental fluctuation, a disturbance of the mind, if you will. We are going to stay laser focused on that control of the breath, and in the same way observe that control over the breath. So you see how it goes almost full circle to being convoluted and a little bit confusing again. But this is something that becomes effortless. This is something that becomes truly witnessed and observed, where you don't have to actively think about this inhale and that exhale. Just like eventually you're kind of fluidly moving your body through the practice without really actively thinking about it. So in the same way that eventually you're witnessing the postures and the body move through the postures, the asana, then you're also going to be watching the breath be moved through the body, the pranayama. The prana becomes the apana. So what this means is that the inhale eventually becomes the exhale and vice versa. So you could think of this as like a hollow tube, and at the same time that air is going in one side, it's also going out the other side. Just two streams of air passing by each other effortlessly. This is a state that the yogis were said to be seeking after. And this is a state that we sometimes might find ourselves in during that final corpse pose, shavasana, where you might even realize I might not have been breathing for a moment there. And sometimes, in my past experience, with myself or with other students, there's a gasp of air because they notice they hadn't been breathing properly or at all. So this is a little bit of a taste of pranayama in the definition. We are going to have so many videos for you guys with different breath exercises. You see, me myself, I still go back to that definition of it because of what it entails, what it leads to. That exercising or controlling of the breath will bring you the ability to observe and sustain the breath. So I'll see you guys in those videos, the pranayama videos, and many different breath control exercises. And I really look forward to helping you deepen your practice on the mat using these techniques. Thank you guys for joining again. Have a great day. Namaste.